In early 2007, I was freshly 18 and newly married, living in Fort Polk, Louisiana, while my husband was training at Fort Bennington. I was born and raised in Alaska, so living in the continental USA was a vastly new experience for me. My husband had a weekend off, though he was not allowed to leave the base, so we bought a Greyhound bus ticket for me to visit him and meet the soldiers he became friends with. I had never been on a Greyhound bus before, but I was excited to drive through the South and see new places and have my own little adventure. Sure, plenty of creeps bothered me on the bus and at the stations, but I still had interesting conversations, met new people, and generally enjoyed the experience. Regardless of the time, each station we stopped at was open and offered food, outlets for charging, and bathrooms. So, when we arrived in Columbus, Georgia at about 2 a.m., I expected the station to be open. It wasn't. Everyone else who ended their journey there had a ride waiting for them, and suddenly I was completely alone, outside a locked building in the middle of downtown Columbus, full dark and terrified. I didn't know what to do, and my phone was nearly dead from the last long leg of travel. I thought about walking to a gas station, but I had no idea which direction to go, and I couldn't see any nearby lit buildings. I truly expected the station to be open, thinking I would stay there for a bit while my phone charged and I had something to eat and could have access to a phone book so I could call a cab. All I had was an old sign hanging on the side of the building with incomplete phone numbers for taxi companies. The numbers had faded, been scrapped off and defaced. There was only one complete phone number, and it was handwritten in Sharpie at the top of the list. Better than nothing, right? Wrong. I called the number, and a guy answered, casual and sleepy, asking who I was. I apologized, explaining that I was trying to call a cab, when the guy perked up immediately and said,
"Oh, yeah, that's me. I'm on my way."
My phone died 10 minutes after I made the call, and it was another 15 minutes before the guy showed up in a traditional looking yellow cab. I noticed the cab was marked, no logo, number, rates, anything. But it had that taxi light thing on top, and in my young naive mind, seemed totally legit. He waved me over. I got in and asked him to take me to Fort Bennington, finally feeling relief. The doors auto-locked, and I will never forget the first thing he said to me. He was silent until we got on a main road, and he said,
"Do you really think it was a good idea to call a number written in Sharpie?"
I froze. In retrospect, no, it wasn't the best idea I've ever had. But I had so few options and didn't want to be stranded in a huge foreign city in the middle of the night. I didn't know what else I could have done. After a minute, I tried to laugh it off and hoped he didn't notice I was shaking. I reached for my phone before remembering it was dead and realized that if something happened to me, no one would know if I had even made it to Georgia. Staring at me in the rearview mirror, the driver told me what was going to happen.
"There's no use in getting to Bennington this early. The Post Hotel isn't even open. Drive around with me for a while, hang out, and I won't even charge you."
I told him no thanks. I really needed to get to Fort Bennington right away.
"Nah,"
he said, and that was that. We drove to a worn-down apartment complex, where he told me that he was picking up a regular to keep me company. I didn't reply. What could I even say? I wasn't raised religious, but I was praying to God for some kind of a miracle. Out came a woman who looked a bit like a cliché prostitute. Tube top, miniskirt, smudged mascara, and an unlit cigarette hanging from her lips. Short but ratty bleached hair, pockmarked face, cheap purse. I have no idea who or what she truly was, but she got in the front passenger seat and lit her cigarette. She turned to look at me. "Don't worry, he's cool. We're cool." Uh-oh, that definitely helped. I had never considered jumping from a moving vehicle before, but even if I wanted to, the back doors were child safety locked, and I couldn't open them. Trust me, I tried. I was trapped like a caged animal, just waiting to die. I felt so stupid, so foolish, sitting in the backseat of the cab, no idea what to do, and no idea what was going to happen to me. I kept trying to rationalize it, downplaying the situation in my mind. I was too terrified and frozen to actually do anything anyway. As we were driving around, the girl was telling me about the driver, how he was ex-military and had just started this cab business, what a down-to-earth fun guy he was, and how lucky I was to be picked up by him, how I was cute and young, and everything was cool. Her words were a bit slurred, and I knew that she was either drunk or high on something, and I didn't really want to know. We pulled up outside a small blue house sometime later, about an hour before the break of dawn, and the driver told the girl to keep an eye on me while he went inside. I'm in full panic mode, the suspense of it all making it so much worse. So the girl offered me a cigarette to calm my nerves. I wasn't a smoker, but I said yes. She got out of the cab and opened the door, stumbling a bit before sitting on the curb and lighting another cigarette. She lit mine as I sat next to her, and I started thinking about whether or not I could outrun her with my heavy backpack and how long the driver would be inside for. Without me asking, the girl told me that the driver was inside, showering in preparation. I asked her what he would be showering and preparing for, but she kept repeating how cool he was, how much fun we were going to have, and how cute I was. Then she said, "Ranger cab, because he was, like, a ranger or something. Or maybe that was his dad. He's a good-looking guy, military muscles." God finally answered my prayer when the girl slumped over and passed out in the grass. I saw the track marks on her arms and guessed that it was heroin, and apparently, the driver was inside taking a shower and wasn't about to come back in the next few moments. I grabbed my backpack and ran like hell. I don't remember exactly what happened after I started running. I know I took off as fast as my feet would carry me, and that I didn't care to stop to catch my breath. 1 minute I was sprinting for my life, lungs on fire, and then I was trudging along with tears in my eyes as I walked through the Fort Bennington gate with my military spouse ID and asking how to get to the base hotel. Honestly, I wish I knew how I got there. I was in deep survival mode and didn't stop to process any of it until I made it to my room. I don't know if anyone gave me a ride, if I followed a map or what. I've never blocked a memory out like that before, or ever again. I told my husband everything when I finally saw him. He didn't believe me. I probably wouldn't have believed myself either. His lack of trust made me think no one would take me seriously, so I never went to the police. I still had the number I dialed saved in my call history. I knew the girl called it the Ranger cab. What I didn't have was the confidence or support to report it. Sometimes I think back to that day and wonder what would have happened if the girl didn't let me out of the cab, if she hadn't passed out on the ground, and if the driver never stopped for a shower. It's one mystery that I don't need the answer to. Number 2. This happened last Friday, and I'm still stumped. For reference, I'm a male in my late 20s and live with my girlfriend who's currently away on business. I work for a large financial institution in the UK and often work till very late, as I hate bringing work home. For some background info, we bought our current house a few weeks ago, and during the move-in process I was away with work, leaving it down to my partner and a few friends. My car has also recently had a complete electronics failure, so we were down to using just her car. The house itself is located in a small gated community off of a country road on the outskirts of an upmarket town in the UK. It's surrounded by woodlands, and if you don't live there or know somebody who does, chances are you wouldn't have heard of it or even know of its existence. In total, there are 8 houses in the community, and the main gate gives access to the first 6, where my house is located, and then there is a further 2 gates at the top of the road, which lead to 2 very large mansion-style houses. The houses, which haven't got individual gates, are all about 100 feet away from each other and have enclosed rear gardens, and the neighbors are all business types who are very often in work and keep themselves to themselves. Anyway, about 2 days after leaving for my business trip, I get a call from my girlfriend who seems shaken up and tells me that there is a man standing in the garden and that she can't see his face, but he is walking around and crouching in the tree line. So, concerned, but not 100% convinced, as she does have a vivid imagination, and it's the first time that she's been home alone in our new house, I tell her to unlock the doors, go to bed, and call the police if she sees him again. I return to our city's train station on Tuesday, and agree with my girlfriend that she'll pick me up in her car. Then I'll take it home, as she's scheduled to go to Manchester for a conference. I meet up with her, grab a coffee, see her off to her train, then drive her car back to our house. The time is roughly 9 PM. I park the car on the driveway, head inside, shower, watch some reruns of King of the Hill, then head to bed. Then, I get woken up by a light being shone into the bedroom window from downstairs. I get up to investigate, crouching to avoid being seen, and head into the study next to our bedroom and open the curtains that cover some French doors that lead to a small balcony. My heart drops when I see that a man has now moved towards the back door and is trying the handle. The house is in an L shape, so although I can see him, he can't see me without moving around from the back door. He stops for a while, begins flashing the light on and off back into the woods, before walking and calmly back into the woods. I call the police and make a report. Nothing happens on Wednesday, but on Thursday, when I'm giving our cat a bath, I hear the garage door being messed with. I'm in the bathroom directly behind the garage, so I move into the kitchen to get a knife before heading into the garage to check what's going on, when the noises stop and I hear running down the driveway and away from the house. I call the police and they send an officer around to check the property. All they find is some knife marks and scuffs on the bottom of the garage. On Friday, I get my car delivered from the dealership and decide to work from home. I also park my car in the garage, leaving my girlfriend's on the driveway. At around 11 PM, I'm in the upstairs study, listening to music and working, when I find myself freezing. I thought I was going to stop breathing, as I felt someone watching me. And when I turn to face the French doors, I see a man, nondescript looking, around 35 years old, wearing a coat and gloves, carrying what looked like a torch, standing on my balcony. Our eyes met. Now, filled with rage, I go for one of my golf clubs from my golf bag and charge towards the door. He quickly climbs down off of the balcony and runs off into the woods. I've never seen this man in my life before, but I'm sure that he's the man that has been causing problems recently. It's also dawned on me that he would have only seen my girlfriend before and only seen her car. Maybe he thought she lived alone? I've notified the police and have bought some more security devices to install on the property, as well as parked my car on the driveway with hers. We don't know who he is or why he's doing this, but we're hoping that it won't happen again. Number 3. A few years ago, my roommate and I lived on the 3rd floor on the backside of an apartment building. She was in the process of moving out though, so it was mostly just my dog, George Washington, and I. I knew just about every neighbor in my building, and from what I knew, they were super chill. In order to understand this story, I need to explain the way my apartment was set up. In order to get to the door to enter our apartment, you would have to pass by my window, which was a very large window in my bedroom. I had never had any issues until about 2 a.m. on a Saturday, well, technically Sunday. I heard footsteps on the walkway outside my window and saw a shadow pass it. I usually am a groggy person when I first wake up, but ever since, it had just been me. I was more aware of my surroundings, so it jolted me awake. I had a nightstick under my bed, so I grabbed it and debated about what to do for the next 30 seconds. I opened up my bedroom door quietly, right in front of our main entrance, and started to notice the handle jiggle ever so slightly. Clearly, at this point I knew that I could either A. shit my pants, B. get attacked, or C. scare the person off. Choice A seemed to be the most likely for my personality type, but choice C it was. I turned on the outside light, kicked the outside door as loud as I could, and screamed a string of words that would make a sailor blush. I heard footsteps turn and quickly walk the other way. I called my stepdad, who thankfully lived close by. He came by to check on me and wanted me to stay with them, but I said I would be fine and off he went. And the next morning, I got up and got ready for church, not really thinking of the night before. I returned home shortly after and was texting on my phone as I reached to get my keys and put them into the lock on my front door. I couldn't find the keyhole though, so I looked up and noticed that my entire lock had been bashed in. It hadn't really set in what had happened yet, so I opened the door and looked in. A lot of my stuff was gone, televisions, computers, jewelry, etc. Luckily, they left my doggo there and unharmed. My brain caught up to my surroundings, so I grabbed George and ran outside to call the police. They came out, guns drawn, as they cleared my apartment. And it felt surreal to talk with forensics in your own residence. They never found out who did it, and in the end, it worked out okay. A lot of the jewelry they stole was from an ex that I had intentions of pawning anyway, and renter's insurance covered that, so I got some sweet new technology upgrades. However, I still am very unsettled internally about that night and day, particularly about that night. I replayed it and often wonder what would have happened had I not woken up, or if the person hadn't been so easily turned away. It also is very unsettling to know that they were watching me, or waiting for me to leave for church, so that they would break in. And ever since that day, I keep my head on a swivel and pay extremely close attention to my surroundings, particularly when I get home. So, to the thieving asshole who scared me, whatever your true intentions were, let's not meet.